Apologies for that. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our August episode of Progressive HR Live. I'm here with Matt LaFata and Erica Nisi of HRchitect, the leader in HCM Systems Strategic Consulting. We're discussing everything that you would want to know about HCM implementation. So you know the drill. If you've been on a Progressive HR Live before, now's the time to introduce yourself in the comments. Let us know who you are, where you're streaming from, and when do your kids go back to school? And if you kids are not going back to school, then what do you have for beginning of fall plans? So I'd like to introduce our panel today, Erica Nisi. Erica is the co-owner and EVP of Implementation Services for HRchitect. Erica, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having us.
You're very welcome. And tell me, when are your kids going back to school? If you have children, if not, what are your start of fall plans?
Yeah, so I have a 4 and a 6-year-old, and so we started pre-K and first grade the week before last. So we are full speed ahead with all of the schooling. So I think we start earliest in Georgia.
When are you starting next week, you said?
We started last week.
Last week. Oh my goodness. Then you must get out really early then.
We do. We get out a little bit earlier, but it's still a short summer.
I know. I was wishing last night that the girls started school in like a week or so, but then I was also wishing that I had more time with them. So it's very conflicted. So, all right, everybody. We have Matt LaFata here, and Matt LaFata is the president and CEO of HRchitect. Matt, how are you doing today? And your kids go back to school, and when? And if not, what are you doing for fall?
Yeah, so I'm doing wonderful. Thank you very much. My kids are all adults, but I do have 2 that are starting back to college in, I think, 2 weeks. So I know the school system has started already this week here in North Texas, but we don't have anything for a couple of weeks. So in fall, I'm just looking forward to cool weather. So it is really hot here.
Yeah, I can imagine. I was thinking about pumpkin spice lattes the other day, and I was like, oh, it's not even September yet, and I'm thinking about pumpkin spice lattes.
We actually put some, I guess they're ceramic pumpkins out by the pool yesterday because we're getting excited about fall. So we put candles in them so they're lit up and get us excited about cooler weather.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Manifesting the cooler weather for everyone.
Exactly.
All right, let's go to our audience. We've got a lot of people joining us today, so we're going to have a lot of introductions. And if I don't introduce you, greatest apologies. We will try to get back to that a little bit later as we're answering the questions. So this is a LinkedIn user, and I apologize. I don't know who this is, but hi, folks joining from New Hampshire today. Becky is joining us from South Carolina. Kristen is joining us. Hello. And we have Laura joining us from New Hampshire, and Belay from Atlanta, Georgia. Belay is with HRchitect. And I did want to mention that there will be some sales and marketing people from HRchitect in the comments today. So if you have questions about HRchitect that Matt or Erica do not answer, you're very welcome to ask Belay and the rest of the team. Ricky's joining from Tennessee. We have Sarah joining from Pennsylvania. And, oh my gosh, you guys, thank you so much for joining us today. Richard is coming in from South Florida. We've got Dominique from Central Florida. And Becky says, kids are successfully back to school today. Oh my gosh, like I swear, most of Wisconsin has to be like the latest. We don't go back until like after Labor Day. And Ben said kids went back to school today in Florida. Tina says hello from Georgia. We have Sarah. She said almost an empty nester. Last kid leaves next week. Why do we have a sigh of relief? Because we know that we're absolutely going to miss them. And we have a very international group today. Sia from Toronto, and Tommy is joining us from Jacksonville, Florida, and Kristen from Texas. And another team member from HRchitect, Nicole from Western New York. School starts after Labor Day for us. Yep, Nicole, we're in the same bucket as Wisconsin. All right, everybody, I think I'm going to have to quickly move over to our questions. And so I'll catch you guys up later with introductions. Again, thank you so much for joining us today. Much appreciated. We're going to start our discussion with a question that has been on everyone's mind. How will the Salesforce Workday partnership and M&A activity in the industry impact evaluations? And so I'm going to direct this question towards Matt. Matt, what do you think?
Great question. A lot to unpack there. So obviously two, giants in the respective industries, and it's all about AI. So whether it's AI on the CRM side, Salesforce, or AI on the Workday HR financial side, AI is transformative. It's not a trend. It's not going away. I think every HCM vendor out there is trying to figure out exactly how AI plays a role in what they do. But it's much bigger than just that, right? So, we do as a company, we do implementations, but we also do strategic services. So we're helping companies through that evaluation process, because obviously you got to select a system before you implement the system. And we track 300 some odd HCM vendors out there across all different disciplines: HR, payroll, workforce management, talent. And that process, you would think that number would be shrinking through all the acquisitions that we see take place over time, but it's not. It's expanding because, again, of innovation. So whether it's the Salesforce Workday partnership or some of the other HCM vendors out there that are partnering with, say, Google for AI capabilities as well. There's so much going on out there. So I don't think, not taking anything away, of course, from Salesforce or Workday, but the entire industry is going through a big change right now. And when we do evaluations, it goes back and forth. Should people get a full suite or should they get best of breed? And that, changes over time, sort of like a roller coaster. We're seeing a lot of change back to best of breed now. And a partnership like that states best of breed, right? So it's not everything from one vendor. So some people might buy their HCM suite from one person, but buy their learning system or the talent acquisition system from somebody that solely focuses on that. So for us, we have to just watch the marketplace very closely. You have to stay on top of these trends. You have to stay on top of not just the 800-pound gorillas that are out there making these kind of investments and changes, but smaller startups as well. So for us, it's exciting. And I think for a consumer of HR software, you have to stay on top of these trends, which is almost impossible. So I think that's why firms like HRchitect, who help people guide and navigate their way through it, are so critical to get that right system before you go into the implementation.
Wow. You watched 300 companies? 300 organizations?
It used to be close to 800. And when I was talking to Jacqueline Kuhn, who runs our strategic services practice the other day, they've kind of spent some time over the last few months and gone through and tried to get it down, and they really couldn't get it below 300. So yes, that's an accurate number.
Wow. I mean, that just blows my mind. But of course, you have a very talented team. So your team consists of a number of different experts. You have an expert, for example, for Dayforce, an expert for Workday, and an expert for, do you have Oracle, or would you consider that more legacy?
That's more legacy. We have experts on UKG, Workforce Software, iCIMS, Paylocity. There's probably about 8 different systems that the folks that work directly for Erica on the implementation side have knowledge about. And really for us, if you're going to help people evaluate systems, it's not only just keeping track of those 300 companies, but it's knowing enough about the leading systems and how they implement and how they interact with each other in order to take people through the process of getting the right systems and then through the implementation and so forth. When
I started out in this business, I always thought, oh, HRI system, they're HCM systems, they're all the same. We talk about going through this big, long evaluation and implementation process, but like, why not just throw a dart at the dartboard? Because again, they all have the same type of things. It's just whether one's more expensive or maybe one has like greater advertising. But the more that I really get into it, it is very nuanced. And I think that, what would you have to say about that? Like, someone coming into this for the first time, selecting an HRIS system, understanding that maybe it's just like, let's just throw a dart at the dartboard and see which one is the best. What would you say to that?
Yeah, it's not like going to Google and looking for some kind of supplement and just Googling it and buying, whatever shows up off Amazon. It's an HR system, an HCM system has such wide-ranging ramifications throughout not only an organization, but anybody that touches that organization. So the employees, suppliers, depending on what kind of industry it's in. And you're right, it's a great point. You might think, okay, HR software, it all does the same thing, right? How do we hire people, manage people, fire people, and everything in between? And most of them, handle the basics well, but every industry is different. Every company's needs are different. There is a lot of uniqueness in how different companies work. And especially if companies go through, you mentioned M&A with the first question, if companies are going through mergers and acquisitions and two companies merge and they have two different systems, you then got to go through an evaluation, or you should, as to which system is best for now the combined company. So there's, like you said, they all at the end of the day are doing the basic functions, but it's beyond the basic. Who's innovating? Who has great support? Who's integrating with other systems that are out there? So there is a lot more to take into account than just, hey, I need a new payroll system. Let's go just pick, one off of the checklist and move on.
Yeah, like, oh my gosh, I know that ADP has the largest amount of payroll data. Why not just ADP? Let's just go with ADP because I've heard so much about it. Or Salesforce and Workday are in the news right now, and I like bright, shiny objects. So let's just go with Salesforce and Workday because they're clickbait for everyone right now. Yeah. Thanks, Matt. We're going to turn back to the audience and do some more introductions because, audience, I greatly appreciate you joining us today. And then we're going to go on to our second question. And audience, if you have any questions for Matt and for Erica, or anything just comes to your mind about HCM implementation, because this title is everything you'd want to know about HCM implementation, go ahead and drop those questions in the comments and we will have someone answer those if we can't get to them today. So a few more people we wanted to introduce here. Thank you again. So we have, apologies if I don't pronounce the name correctly, Humam from Toronto, and we have Shivam from Canada, and oops, I apologize for that. Vanessa says HRchitect represent, and we have Kai from Brooklyn, New York. And more people, a lot of people from Texas coming through. And Krista says, hi, Christina, sorry, I apologize, from Houston, Texas. Thank you again, everybody, for joining us. And if you're just joining us now, our conversation is everything you'd want to know about HCM implementation with Matt LaFata and Erica Nisi from HRchitect. And so we're going to go back into our questions. And this question, again, is for Matt. And so, Matt, how can HR professionals handle the organizational change management and user adoption associated with new systems implementation?
Great question. So we're big fans of change management. Anytime you put a new system in, whether you're replacing a manual process or replacing some other system, if you don't take a look at the processes, the people, the operation of the organization, and make some kind of change, why did we put this new system in? Why is it better than what we had before? How are we going to get people to use the system? You're just adding chaos, really. So, for us, if you think about what change management is all about, and again, I go back to an implementation. There's so much that starts before an implementation to help with the success of it. There's pre-implementation planning, and there's change management amongst some other services. These are services we provide outside of an implementation itself. They're not free services, but they are priceless. And so change really is, you have to start by identifying the need for change. Well, the need for change is we just put a new system in. Okay, now let's get stakeholders on board. So we have to go through and educate the stakeholders, some of who were part of the decision to put a new system in, some may not have. Who's going to own the change? Who's going to help communicate and have a strategy around communication and a plan to roll it out to the organization? Then there's learning involved, right? So how do we then take, whether it's training so that people adopt the system, we need people to really understand, why are we doing this? Because the success of an implementation starts there. It starts with the why. People have to understand, how is this going to help them in their job? How is it going to help the organization? And then there's just ongoing. So we put the system in, we're now live with the system. It doesn't just stop right there, right? So change is an ongoing process. Otherwise, what we've seen is people, after a while of using the system, was like, why did we do this? There's nothing has changed. And then that becomes to, we're not utilizing it properly, or it's coming to people just don't know how to use it. So for us, change is vital. It's not just to HR and to the administrators, but it's everybody that's entering time, for instance, or doing self-service to check on, their pay stubs or whatever it may be. So change is vital. It's hard. Change can be hard. It can be uncomfortable. But if you don't do it and don't do it properly, then maybe you just swapped, one system that was hobbling along for another. So for us, change is just it's necessary. I won't say necessary evil. It's just necessary.
And I was reading one of your recent blogs yesterday, and in all my years of human resources, I think one of the things that jumped out to me, and it just kind of seemed like an aha thing, but also like, well, why didn't I think about this before? Was when talking about when you're going through a new systems implementation, to look back at your policies, because your policies could not, maybe don't support the new system, and you really have to go about also changing those policies, and with the new system, changing the way that you do things and putting that in writing. And I thought it was like, of course you do. What is change all around? So I appreciate you mentioning that.
Yeah, because people, you're right, they don't think of that, and that's why, selfishly, they need a firm like HRchitect, because we have been through so much of that. We know that when you go to a modern HCM system, you don't just have to be coming from a paper system, but a modern HCM system off your old, PeopleSoft or some system that's just been around forever. Things have changed, right? So the policies you may have created a year ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, now we're all of a sudden in a modern system. We're in a new era. There's always things changing around, diversity and compliance and this and that. So you've got to make, everything you have in your organization. Now you've got this great modern system, which takes care of so many of these things that you were doing a certain way before. Now HCM systems are designed to make your life easier. Take advantage of what it's giving you.
Thanks, Matt. Even more now with AI, we have to be on our toes, and things are changing so much faster, and they're going to keep changing that way. I don't care what anybody says. We're not in an AI bubble. I mean, this is just going to keep growing and growing and growing.
Yeah.
Yep.
So with that, we're going to move on to some questions about implementation and bring Erica into the conversation. Thank you for waiting so patiently, Erica. Much appreciated. So Erica, I want to know, how do you ensure that your HCM implementation captures the right data? Because every conversation around here is about AI and data to drive meaningful insights.
Yeah, so that's a great question. And I'm going to kind of, base that off of what Matt was just saying. So change is extremely important. And so we think about multiple factors when we are looking at an implementation project. So we want to start by clearly defining the business objectives and putting together an implementation strategy, because we really want to understand what are the current systems that you have and what are your future HCM systems going to be as well. And so when we're looking at a project, we need to think about timelines and resources. And of course, the data and integrations that are flowing in between these current systems and also our future systems. And so in that implementation strategy, we need to think about a few things. So as Matt mentioned, the stakeholders. So stakeholders are key in the process of an implementation. And that's not just your executive sponsors. That is also going to be people that you want to get involved early in the project. So that is managers and end users of the system, because with user adoption and the overall success of the implementation, you want to get everyone excited about it. So we also want to think about if we're going to go with a big bang or a phased approach. So with our strategy, we plan for that. And so it's going to be very different depending on the organization that you're within, because if you have standard processes and very similar rules within your organization, it would make sense to do a big bang approach and just turn on the light switch and you're good to go with the HCM solution. But you might be within an organization that has multiple union agreements, which we see all the time, and also locations with vastly different configuration. That would mean for our implementation strategy, we would want to go with that phased approach. And then circling back to the data within that strategy, we need to look at data. So when you've been in a system, like Matt mentioned, maybe PeopleSoft, you've been in that system for several years and you're looking at a new HCM system and evaluating it. You want to clean your data. You want to make sure that you're putting clean data into your new system. You don't have duplicate values, and you want to cleanse that as well. And then the data within your integrations too. So you might be able to, with that implementation strategy, get rid of some of the existing integrations. And so we build out that whole implementation architecture and the strategy to really align with what's going to meet your objectives within the project.
Thank you, Erica. And I'm going to mention something, and again, it's been a while, it's been a minute that I have been a practitioner, CHRO. I'll mention that I came into this one company and they had just implemented a new HCM system, and I won't say which one it is. But during implementation, they didn't think to put in the EEOC data. And so I went to go do the report at the end of the year, and I had absolutely nothing to go by. So I had to follow up with each employee and sometimes past employees as well, just to get the report done. So again, we have a question about how important, one of the questions audience questions is how important is having a resource like HRchitect to help you with implementation? Well, there's a case study right there. One of the reasons why.
Yeah.
So I'm going to actually go to that question, and forgive me, audience, it's going to take me a minute to get to that question, but I saw it because we have two audience questions for Erica and Matt. So here it is. It didn't take me that long. So question, how important or not is dedicated HRS resource to a client about to implement? Who wants to jump into that first?
I can take that one, Matt.
Sure.
Okay. So I would say I look at the word dedicated. So we know that when you're going through an implementation, it is often you might not have a full-time resource to be engaged with that project. So your HR resource and your payroll resources may have their daytime jobs where they are processing payroll, or they're also doing this implementation and also taking training. So the dedicated piece of that is sometimes difficult to indicate, but I would say the HRIS resource is really going to depend on the size of your organization as well as the complexity. So you need to look at really the number of integrations that you're going to be having in your implementation. So if you're going with a solution where you are just connecting to APIs and you're not building out multiple custom integrations, you might not need a full-time dedicated HRIS resource, except for someone that is available maybe 50% of the time to help with testing of the system as you're going through UAT. But when you are a large organization and you have multiple systems that you're integrating with, let's say a hospital, and you have multiple outside systems that you need to integrate with outside of an HCM solution, that's where you might want a dedicated HRIS resource.
And one thing I'd like to add to that is one of the biggest reasons we see for a failure of an HCM is the client not having resources to work on the project. It doesn't need to be dedicated resources, as Erica said, but bring in an outside resource, whatever it may be. But there are certain client tasks that have to happen with every implementation. And when the client is not doing those tasks, somebody has to do them, or the project will get delayed, or it will be a shoddy implementation, and that will create more problems at the end of the day. So that's one of the services we always put as an option in our implementation statements of work, is a client-side resource. So if you don't have them, we will be happy to supply you with a resource that can handle your tasks and help to ensure success with the implementation.
Thanks, Matt and Erica. So that question was from Catherine Lopez. Catherine, thank you so much for the question. We have another question from, and I apologize again for not pronouncing this name correctly, or maybe I am, Vijaya. And that question is, among all the WFM workforce management tools. I'm just so used to saying work from home. That's where my mind went. Like UKG Pro, workforce management tool, Infor, workforce management tool, and Dayforce, etc. Which has more market or clients in the US? As per your analysis, which tool will have the better future? Wow, that's a loaded question. Do you want to take this question?
Yeah, let me get the crystal ball out there. So, it's a tough thing to say. I mean, UKG Pro, WFM, and Dayforce, both are just, growing, and they have a lot of different flavors of their workforce management system. So both have been around for a while, as has Infor, but we're really seeing UKG Pro, WFM, and Dayforce as kind of the leaders of those three, if you will. I think from a market share, it would depend on industry, it would depend on client size and so forth. So it really is too much analysis and data to go through here, but absolutely happy to have that conversation offline. But just in a very general sense, we see a lot of times when we're doing evaluations that the finalists tend to be UKG Pro, WFM, and Dayforce. But also, I was talking earlier about best of breed. Workforce Software is a best of breed workforce management system that works really well in very complex situations. So that's why that evaluation is so important, and to not just look at a suite, unless the suite is going to handle a client's needs, and a lot of times it does. But we always try to keep an open mind and look at the broader marketplace.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Matt and Erica, for answering that question. And thank you, Vijaya, for asking that question. So here is another very important, but maybe a little bit difficult to answer question. But I wanted to bring this up. It's a little bit of an essay here from Ben. One of the most common struggles we have when implementing new clients is the expectations of how much time they will need to spend on the project. I often hear feedback from clients that they are having to spend more time on the project than expected. This is especially common during testing. These expectations are often set before I am on the project and the project manager, and I have to reset them. How can we do better at gauging the amount of client involvement and communicating that?
Yeah, I can take that one. So, Ben, that's a great question. And something we really try to identify early on when we're going through the sales process with our clients. And what Matt mentioned is that client side assistance that we provide. So, it's really important to us to really get in there in our discovery and our process, our early on pre-implementation processes, for the client to really understand what is going to be needed from each of the various roles within the project. So we work with our clients early on to identify that, because oftentimes a project you'll think that it just resides around an HR payroll resource, but a lot of times it needs to reside around anybody within the integration space, as well as your executive sponsors and project management. So I think the key there is really making sure that you're having those conversations early on within the project in like a pre-implementation phase. And what we do with our clients is we provide them with some guidance in an early on sheet within the project that tells them what key resources are going to be needed for the implementation project and the anticipated time that's going to be needed on a weekly basis as well. And I feel that if you do those key things early on, then they will know when it gets to testing, oh, okay, that's my task, that's within UAT, and that's something that I need to complete as well.
Thanks, Erica. Matt, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, no, it's right. Sometimes you don't know going, when you sign a statement of work or whatever. We try to do as much scoping ahead of time. We try to prepare the client as much as you can, but things happen. What if all of a sudden the HR resource loses their job, or the company consolidates a little bit? So you have to be nimble throughout the project. So we can set up that chart, like Erica said, based on what we know of the client and know of the project from having gone through so many of these. We're pretty good at putting what we believe they can expect. But again, if they don't put the time in, and if they say, wow, I didn't really pay attention when you said I need to do all this time, and then you get into trouble. So, and that happens more times than not, because nobody reads everything, nobody listens, right? So when it comes to the implementation, no matter how much we tell them, this is on you, once it actually gets to that point, oh, you didn't tell me I had to do that. So I think that's where a lot of it comes as well.
I think to somewhat of your point is that a lot of people are very busy and they've got a lot of noise coming at them, and the brain can take on only so much. So to your point, again, it's about communication over and over and over again, and especially during like such a big project as an implementation. So thanks for that, Matt. So Matt mentioned about talking, if you had any questions regarding HCM implementation or vendor analysis, that you could talk with Matt or Erica offline. So what I'm going to do right now is ask the HRchitect team members to identify themselves in the comments, so you can connect with those team members and they can connect you with Erica and Matt. Alternatively, if one of the team members from HRchitect would go ahead and add the LinkedIn profiles to Matt and Erica, or maybe the information email of HRchitect. So if there's anybody on the conversation or the live right now that really wants to have that offline conversation, no matter what it is, well, within the realm of HCM implementation with Matt or Erica, that they can do so, and they can make a request for an appointment now. So I just wanted to mention that, everybody, because I kind of seemed that Matt said that, and then I thought I'd offer, like, we'll figure out how they can get in touch with you. So we've got a few more questions coming in and some more comments, but I really would like to get on to another question for Erica that I have pre-prepared, because we were just talking about the success and the feedback from HCM implementations. So Erica, how do you measure the success of HCM implementations? Like, how does HRchitect measure that?
So I would say the biggest thing is user adoption and employee satisfaction. So when you go live with the system, are your employees excited about it? Is your team excited about it? And that's what we really want, is that feedback from not only our clients, but the employees within their ecosystem as well. So that is one thing where, there is Raven Intel, who we work very closely with, and we send our clients there to provide feedback on how their experience was in working with us. And so that is like the glass door of HCM technology. So you can find out how implementations are going. So I would say that user adoption, employee satisfaction. Also, I would say time savings. So how much time are you saving with not having to spend all of your time on mundane tasks throughout the day? And ultimately cost savings. So everybody wants to save money these days, right? And so when it comes to implementing HCM solution, you really want to see how much money you're saving with being now in compliance with state, federal regulations, and also just having to not deal with the payroll errors that you might have had in a legacy system that is probably outdated.
And if I could just add to that, the importance of Raven Intelligence. I mean, it's a third-party organization, all designed around HCM implementations, right? So they're reviews, independent reviews, client reviews that we have no control over, and we're proud to be the top-rated partner on there across several ecosystems with the most reviews. And we take all that feedback really seriously. We share it with the consultants. But there's also, because we're implementing so many different systems, the vendors themselves are also surveying the clients after a project. So we have to be, it's tricky because we have to please the clients, we have to please the vendor, the HCM vendor. And so we'll get their feedback, which is from a different angle than what the Raven angle is, and also different than the surveys that we send out as well. So quality is everything. I mean, reputation is everything. And so for us, the entire organization knows that, and I'm not saying every single implementation is a success, but we've done enough of them across enough platforms that we know the recipes for success. And we share a lot of knowledge across practices as well. So, but for us, it's just checking what our clients and what our partners are saying during an implementation and after the implementation.
Excellent. And how should a client measure the success of an HCM implementation?
So from my viewpoint, clients should measure that, hey, they went live on time. They've got a brand new system. They've got they're now processing payroll or punching clocks or whatever it is through the new system. And they're paying people on time and everything, so the system is doing what it was intended to do. I mean, so to me, the success is the proof is in the pudding, as they say, and it's right there. As the system works, it was put in on time. They're hopefully now saving money from what they were on before and starting to realize a return on that investment.
So that brings up a question that it just kind of floated to the top of my head. Do you have any resources for companies that and HR leaders that are looking for ways to measure the success and the ROI of the HCM implementations when you're finished?
We do in several ways. So our strategic services team, so there's several things that we can put together for clients. We can put together a business case about what they can expect from the ROI of putting in a new system or replacing, what they may have. So a lot of it, again, happens up front, is they have to know that if I'm going to do this, this is what I can expect. And then it's our job, the implementation team's job, to make sure that we now work towards that plan, towards that goal of getting them there. So some of the measurement, it isn't so much a measurement as an analysis of, here's what your spend is today. Here's how much time your team is spending on different tasks. Here's what's going to happen when you put the new system in place. And then based on that, over 6 months, a year, 2 years, this is what your savings is going to be. So that is something we do help people through.
Yeah, and I think that's amazing because I don't think a lot of consultancies would put the extra effort into doing that. And that's something, again, going through an HCM implementation. And again, when I say back in the day, I'm aging myself, but it was 5 years ago.
Hey, this industry changes so fast that is.
I know. I wish I would have had that. Like, that would have made my life so much easier. So we have two more. I think we have two more audience questions. And so I believe this was from Samantha Colby. And I love this question, Samantha, because I was thinking the same thing. I know lots of people choose January go lives. What are the pros and cons of choosing that timeframe for a go live date?
So yeah, I can take that one. I would say January and February are probably our busiest months. So we do see a large majority of clients looking for January go lives. I would say that's really shifted in the last couple of years because we are seeing a lot more go lives in April, July, October. And I would say the pros with going live in January is not having to deal with opening balances, because if you go live at the start of a quarter, you will have to deal with that additional file feed and getting that information into the system. But also the cons of a January go live is a lot of people within organizations take vacation around the holidays. So when you look at the multiple holidays that do occur at the end of the year and aligning the correct resources that are going to be available for Christmas and Thanksgiving and New Year's Day and New Year's Eve, that's usually the biggest con I see. And because a lot of people will start punching on January 1st. And for a lot of organizations, that is a holiday. So that is unfortunately a busy day for us in my team, but we're very used to working on that day. So yeah.
And I would add a con, or even expand the con that Erica just said, is that I discourage people from going live in January, because think about, most people want to go live then. So the software vendors, the amount of stress on them with everybody going live and having to support everybody. And if things go wrong, chances of getting timely answers, or their servers being overloaded, or whatever it might be, just go up. So, pick, like Erica said, pick your April, your July, your October, pick another time. Yeah, there's a little bit more work that's involved, but if you plan for it, you can make it happen. It's just, so to me, this is a big con. You're just overwhelming the software vendors with the amount of people that want to do it at that time. Not to say, of course, we're overwhelmed. Erica's team is overwhelmed by helping the people, and we'll do whatever it takes. But that is a really big issue that people don't think about. Yeah,
and one thing as well with that is a lot of benefit carriers and vendors will have blackout dates the last couple of months. So if you're building an integration with a benefit carrier and you need their feedback in November or December, they might have a blackout date, and you've got to wait until after you've gone live with the system. So not just internal resources and resources on the project, but also those outside vendors too.
Yeah, no, I think that's some very, very smart and very logical advice. Thank you. So we have a question from Angelica Gonzalez, and I think this is an excellent question. Thank you for asking, Angelica. How do you handle a bad review?
We scream, we yell.
Pull your hair out.
Yeah,
Say, no, it can't be possible.
I mean, it's a learning. Fortunately, we don't get very many of those, but it is a learning moment. So we look at, we try to get as much data. Sometimes it's just in the bad review, it says, I didn't like, the consultant, or I didn't like this, or I didn't like that. The few bad reviews we've got have actually been about the software. They weren't happy with the software, not necessarily the work we did, but the software, but we get blamed because we were part of the implementation. So we try to find out, we try to talk to the client and ask what it is we could do differently. How can we make it right? And really just approach it that way. So we don't ignore it. After the screaming and yelling is done, then we move on to, okay, let's make this a productive conversation. Let's see how we can help and make it right. And we'll do it. if it's salvageable, we'll do whatever we can to salvage it. Erica, anything you want to add to that?
No, I think that's perfect. We definitely scream and cry when we get one. But no, I mean, it's really, we have all of these really good reviews because it's important to us to ensure that our clients are happy and they're feeling good about the solution. So we're always trying to be proactive on our projects so that we are mitigating any risks. So when there are things that come up, we're addressing them immediately. So they are going to happen in any company, any industry, but we're always doing whatever we can to try to avoid that and have happy clients.
Excellent. So I've got one last question, and this can be to both Matt and Erica. And we can take about 5-ish minutes to answer that before we get into our summary and our closing remarks on the live. And that's the question is, what are the common challenges? And I know that you've talked about some of them already, but what are the common challenges of HCM implementations and how does your team help clients to overcome them? Jump in either one, whoever wants to answer it first.
So I can start. I would say when Matt was earlier talking about change management, I find that the resistance to change is a big one that comes up on projects, and those can be resources that have just been in the system for over 10 years, over 15 years, and then a company says, oh, I want to go with this new and amazing functionality and a new HCM solution. So there's going to be some resistance to change. But internally with our change management framework and our methodology, with putting together the communication plan and the learning plan and getting them ready for what to expect, then you're going to have an easier time within the project. But if you're not thinking about those steps, it's going to cause difficulties. And with that is the training element of it, right? So we'll put together the training plan and the learning plan, but day to day, it's hard to find time to take training. We know that as an organization, as taking quarterly training and yearly training and doing that, but it's important. And as you're going through an HCM implementation, there's really great training that's available. And then we also offer above and beyond training. So train the trainer, quick user guides, end user training, all of these additional tools that we provide that can really help to kind of get rid of that, those challenges.
Yeah, and I would add, think about, a house is only as good as its foundation. So for us, the implementation is only as good as your initial planning. So whether that be some pre-implementation planning to define for the client what is needed on your end, what to expect from this implementation, because again, nobody likes surprises. So we try to map everything out. This is when it's going to start. This is when, data conversion, testing, go live, and then hypercare support after that's going to happen. One of the biggest things we see is bad data can derail, coming from a previous system can derail an implementation. So clean up data, don't just, garbage in, garbage out kind of thing. I mean, you got to clean up data before you try to convert it to the new system. And then once you go live, it doesn't end there. There's care and feeding that has to happen to the implementation. It could be optimization that happens afterward, but ongoing support. Make sure you're getting the support you need, your users need, to continue with success. Because again, you've got this brand new shiny system that is different from whatever it was that you came from, and now you're live with it. So you can't just throw up your hands and say, okay, good luck. I mean, so there is that a lot of hand holding going through the process for a while afterward, with whatever help is needed.
Excellent, thank you. So audience, we're going to go into a quick summary before we ask Erica and Matt for their closing remarks. I want to let you know that our September guest for Progressive HR Live is going to be Lotus Buckner, and Lotus is going to talk about her new book, The Joy of HR. So that's going to be a really great conversation. The event page for that event is not up yet, but expect that within the next, 2 or 3 days. If you want to get a message from me right when that event page goes up, please go ahead and type yes into the comments so I know that I invite you first. And then if you would like to connect with Matt and Erica on LinkedIn, please follow, and you can connect with Matt and Erica on LinkedIn, and you can also follow HRchitect on LinkedIn as well. If you want to visit HRchitect.com to know more about HCM implementation or their services, or to request a consultation, again, that's HRchitect.com. And then lastly, if you would like additional information or have any questions that weren't addressed today, and you want to directly address those to Matt or Erica or anyone at the HRchitect team, please reach out directly, email info@hrchitect.com. And I'll keep that ticker up as we're doing last remarks so everybody can get that. So Matt, Erica, do you have any last remarks or any questions for the audience before we end in about 7 or so minutes?
I'd like to add one very important thing is a human capital management system should not be an afterthought. People are the greatest asset of any organization. So, we find too many times people just say, I've got this I've got this ERP system. It's got an HR module. Why can't I just use that? No. Your HCM should always be decoupled from an ERP. That is a big, hard no. So your HCM should be decoupled from your ERP for so many reasons, compliance reasons, cost of ownership, so forth. My final thought would be, don't make HCM your people. Don't make that an afterthought. Make that a priority.
I'm going to go, yay, clap on for that. Raise the roof.
There you go.
Thanks, Matt. Erica, thoughts?
Yeah, I would just thank you for having us today. It was a really great session. And, what really makes us a successful organization is our people. And so I just wanted to give a shout out to our HRchitect team here, because we really do have the most amazing team out there, and we're just so thankful for them. And that's how we get all of those amazing Raven reviews, and that's how we have so many successful implementations as well. And yeah, we're here on LinkedIn, and we would love to connect if there's any questions following this as well.
Yeah, so we have about a few more minutes. If any audience members, if you have any questions for Matt, Erica, or myself, I can wait a little bit and see what kind of questions come through in the comments. I see that we're getting so many likes and celebrations right now, and this is just an absolutely fantastic conversation. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Erica, for joining me, and thank you to the team at HRchitect for joining the audience in the comments and just being so supportive of the progressive HR community. Thank you very, very much. I don't see, I apologize. Go ahead.
I was just saying thank you. Like in what Erica said, it's been wonderful. And we love talking about this. We love evangelizing it. We love talking about our people because they are the greatest. Erica is absolutely spot on with that.
Audience, I also have a call to action for you. So if you think that you have someone in your network that would benefit from this conversation or would enjoy hearing the conversation, please go ahead and hit the share button now and send those people a message, or share this post, because this is a post that you can share on LinkedIn, out on your page to your network and saying, hey, this was a great conversation. Please watch the replay. We are going to be replaying on LinkedIn anywhere from 2 to 3 weeks. So this conversation will be evergreen. So as long as you have the URL to the event page, anybody can watch this. And so greatly appreciate any shares, any reposts that you, audience, could do for us. I see just a lot of celebration coming through at the end here. So Tennille says, woo! And Jim Bob, a little celebration. Gia Evans says, absolute best company on the planet. Well, that says a lot. And Tammy says, awesome job. Thank you, Tammy. And I love this one. Damn, Skippy, we're amazing. From Michael. Oh, have a few more. Question, is this URL something we can have for our signatures? Yes, yes, I will get you an URL, the URL for you. Otherwise, we are going to be, the Progressive HR team is going to be taking this conversation and breaking it up into shorts, YouTube shorts, and some vertical videos and some longer chunks of the videos per the questions that Matt and Erica answered. So there'll be plenty of content that you can share out or put in your signatures. And then Patrick says, facts, best company. Belay, thanks to everyone for joining and to our great speakers and host. Oh, thank you, Belay. And teamwork makes the dream. I was wondering if we were going to get this comment, so thank you, Michael. Definitely teamwork makes the dream work. All right, everybody, it is 5 to the hour, so we're going to end here. So you can get a cup of coffee or some water or something before your next meeting. And again, thank you so very much for joining us today. We appreciate your time and we appreciate you joining us for this conversation. Thank you, Resourceful Humans. You are the best. And we will see you in September. Bye.
Bye.